Hello and welcome to the gallery. My name is Jon and today I seem to be losing my mind. This time around I decided to go completely bonkers and I'm gonna create my own knight. Now, I have a fair few knights to begin with, but I want something completely different.
And now for something completely different.
So I'm taking a terrain piece and Forge Fiend and a little bit of bits here and there and making my own knight using no knight bits. Probably the best way to go about this is just to dive straight in and see what happens. Now, with this knight, we gotta start somewhere, so let's start at the base size. Now, this is the only part that's not coming from any regular set. I just had one extra big base lying around. Now, we have this Chaos Knight Abominant here, and we're going for a similar model in general. I mean, the weapon options and the theme that I'm making here is quite similar. The look, however, will not be. Of course, I have these weapons magnetized on the original guy. This one will not be magnetized, as this will be such a mixture of various bits. I'm using the Sacrosanct Forge Shrine and a Forge Fiend. That's the main bits I will be using for this model. Now let's start with the Forge Fiend and pick the bits we want to use from this set. And by saying picking the bits we want to use, that means almost everything of the Forge Fiend. I'm not using the heads or some of the extra bits, but I'm using 2 of the guns, and I'm using all the talons, and I'm using the body, most of the all of the hands, and various bits and bobs here and there. And this will be the more maneuverable part of the Abominant that I am making. And I will just be clipping it out to begin with, figuring out what bit I'm going to use, where I'm going to put it. I'm putting all the legs underneath him, even though that's not part of the Forge Fiend, but we're not building a Forge Fiend here, are we? Now that I've picked a lot of bits I wanted, I start scraping off a little bit of mold lines and nubbins here and there, just to get it looking a little bit nicer. And then we're on to the first stage of gluing. I'm going to use the body of the Forge Fiend as more of the hip area of the new knight monstrosity that I am doing. It'll be quite different in silhouette from the original knights, but that's fine by me. And I'm just placing it here, seeing how I'm going to have it all fit together. And then it's just gluing all the legs together, of which I will be using 4 legs and some arms in the loosest sense of the word. But there are a lot of bits to glue together, so we're just throwing some glue down and getting all these ready until we start placing them on the actual portion that we have here ready, so we can figure out how we're going to place each leg, which leg is going to go where. We might not do it as per instructions, but we're pretty damn close. But like I said, we're not putting any weapon options on this bit like the Forge Fiend and the Mauler Fiend have. We're putting only all the legs, because I want him to look quite unlike regular knights. It's an abominant, so it should be abominable and more legs than normal, and having that demon engine vibe, that skin bits here and there, it sells that point a little bit. This was made by the Dark Mechanicum. This is a demon bound in a machine. There's no actual pilot. If there was a pilot, he was maybe gobbled up eons ago, and this has been running amok as just a demon and an engine in one unholy matrimony. Now that we've put a lot of legs down, you see I've not put the actual feet on the smaller 4 legs, because I feel like the base needs a little bit, so this pose of him makes a little bit more sense. So we're gonna build up the base a little bit now, and I'm just using a cork and a little bit of bark, and we're just gonna throw that on in some sort of fashion with some universal hobby glue. And we're just going to throw that on and put the bark on the cork, and then we'll fill up later with some modeling paste or something like that, just so we get a rough look to the ground that he's standing on. And since we're going for quite a demonic engine looking guy, for some reason, I don't know why, I wanted more of a natural earth. Like this was climbing over a small hilltop, way in the field where people are gathering, or soldiers are gathering, waiting for a big fight, and this thing crops up on you, and everybody's like, oh damn. But this is a more natural looking base than most of my other knights will have a more technical looking base, more modern, more 40k looking. This looks a little bit more like just natural formations that this guy is meandering through. And now that we have how he's gonna stand, we can start putting the legs, well, the feet on the legs. So, and we can throw it on the floor, on the table as well. Now we can start putting some feet on the legs, so they are positioned more aptly on the actual earth and the ground and the cliff that we have there. It makes it look a little bit more normal, so it's not just standing flat on top of these weird protrusions from the base. And that's the reason why I waited with putting these feet on him. And one of the feet later on, it fell off, so I had to pin it, but that's fine. It just makes the pose a little bit more normal. After we've figured out how the feet were going to go, I'm going to use this sand textured modeling paste. Well, not modeling paste, it's more of a just painting paste that you can use for whatever you feel like. I bought it at a hobby store. It's this big jug of it, cost about the same as the GW texture paint, so I'm definitely using this for these kinds of projects because I can really put a lot down and not feel the pain in my purse. And now we're just putting that all over the base, and I'm streaking this up into the bark and on the cork as well to tie it all together, make it all a little bit more natural and interesting. Well, we seem to have finished off the bottom bit of the guy, so now we just have to build him up and do something interesting there. But before that, I have a Patreon there. I've not used it that much, but I plan on expanding this channel a little bit and doing something more, and I want to make bigger projects because I feel like the viewers, you, are more inclined to enjoy them, as well as I am more inclined to enjoy making them. If you feel like it, by all means, pop on down there, see what's going on. Maybe you like it. If you don't, it's fine. It's perfectly reasonable. But like I said, I want to make bigger projects, and that means, of course, that they tend to be a little bit more expensive. So every little helps in that regard, of course. But whether you decide to join or not, it's perfectly your choice, of course, and I will continue on painting and building stuff, and hopefully you will continue coming here and enjoying the process with me. Now let's continue on with the knight, and we're going into the upper part of him. Okay, now the base has dried, so we can start figuring out what we're going to have him look like. And I have the other knight still on the table, just so I still have this clear point of reference from something that looks a little bit more normal. Now we're starting to pull from the terrain set, and I found this is part of the silo or whatever you may call it, and this might work as some sort of carapace for this guy. So I'm cutting off this extra bit here because I felt it a little bit protruding a little bit too much, and I'm instead putting some of the armor paneling from the Forge Fiend there, and it looks like a little bit of an armor that might go over the headpiece of the model. So just glue that in place and hope for the best. Worst comes to worst, I can always cut it off, but happily I was happy with it. And then a little bit of some bit, actually, just on the back that makes like a giant ventilation system for a motor. And also using some more from the same set, just clipping it so it fits underneath, and everything ties together looking somewhat okay. However, this was not fitting perfectly because it had no point to grab. So I had to make a little bit of scaffolding underneath, and the best thing for that is just using sprues. Just cutting a few straight bits of sprue and gluing them in there, and while the glue is still a little bit wet, I take the bit that I'm going to use and I press it on so it will be in the right position once the glue dries. So it's just putting some glue on both sides and putting the sprue bits in there to start working on the scaffolding for this bit. Later on we will hide this, of course, with just some other little giblets that I'm putting here and there, just to flesh it out a little bit more, make it a little bit more interesting. Like there's a lot going on. What's going on, I don't know. And as you can see, I just put it on a little bit so it presses into a shape, and then just leave it to dry completely. While that is drying, I start working on the hat of this knight. Now I have extra knight masks and everything like that, but I didn't want to use any knight bits in this model, so I'm using the giant servo skull whatever claw thing that is in the set, and that will be our hat. It's a weird thing. It's quite larger than the other one. It's quite, well, evil looking. I know it is more of a Adeptus Mechanicus hat, but for the Dark Mechanicus, it's quite fitting to have some sort of mechanical things really being in the forefront of this. Now this has dried, and we're just gonna glue that in place and then hide the stuff on the side a little bit. It felt a little bit wonky to have just this straight line, and the other bit that's supposed to go in front didn't really fit. So I just put some more vents there. Apparently there's a lot of power going on in this hulking beastie boy, so he has a lot of vents going on. And immediately we get this strange silhouette, which is quite unlike a knight in most cases, but still kind of knight-ish. Now I'm putting more of these scaffolding sprue bits in here, because this is not grabbing a hold on anything underneath, and we need to have something to work with. So I'm sticking sprues into these little gaps that I had there and having them just dry completely. Then I will just clip it into the shape that I need. While that is drying, why not put the armor panels on the legs that we have there, just to bulk that up a bit as well while we're at it. I mean, they are going on anyway at some point, so why not just have that point be this point? As you can see, I got a lot of stuff on the table. I got bits from a Daemon prince there as well. I was thinking about using it. Decided not doing that, but perhaps later on I might make a different knight with some Daemon prince actually controlling it. That might be interesting. Now I added some extra bit there to hide the scaffolding, just to make it look a little bit nicer, because that's the idea. The more little bits you add here and there, it kind of sells the point, but don't go overboard when you're doing these weird builds, because if you go overboard, it'll hide what you're doing, but not hide your, well, mistakes, because of course this is not how the model is supposed to go together. And I'm not using any green stuff for this. I'm just adding small bits here and there to have it work out. It's not that I don't like green stuff, it just, I didn't feel like it. I got a big roll of it, but I didn't feel like using it. So we're just fiddling and filling in. Now, a lucky thing here, this big hole, a part of the terrain set had this disc with a skull in it, and that fit perfectly into that big hole. So this might be the original pilot still stuck somewhere in the machine. Who knows? I like to think so. It just makes it a little bit more flavorful. And this looks like a weird engine, just like this. But we're going to add, of course, the top bit on top of it. And as you can see, I've cut the scaffolding down a little bit. And now I'm putting little bits of glue here and there, where the scaffolding bits and all the bits that are going to fit on top will be fitting. And now it's just to hope for the best and place it down. Hopefully it doesn't fall. Well, the balance seems to be somewhat okay. Turning it was quite nerve-wracking, but we have a silhouette here. Now we're gonna build on top of it. I'm putting these pylon things here on the bottom. This might be something that helps it balance, or this might be a power source. who knows, but it adds to the look of it, so it feels more interconnected, the top bit and the bottom bit, because it felt just like a block of house on top of a demon. But now we're having it connect a little bit more, having it touching a little bit more, having something between the two bits. These Adeptus Mechanicus gun bits that I had from an old Star collecting set, why not use them? Cut the gun bit off, and then we have some sort of power sourcey pump action thing, something to put there, and that's fine by me. You don't need to have a reason. It looks like it's supposed to be there, ergo that's gonna be there. And of course on the other side as well. And we're now just closing off and hiding the scaffolding, having stuff go in the way so all the crap that's underneath doesn't show up. Some are gun bits, just putting them again, and they have vent looking things, so just use them there. Okay, he's almost done. There's just a few little bits here and there, mainly the weapons. Let's just throw them on and finish this guy off. Now that we have the main body of the Knight Abominant, and abominable it is, let's start adding some weapons to it. But I'm not putting them in the normal fashion, because we don't have these arm sockets or anything like this. So tentacles coming from the side of the face looks creepy enough to be fitting. I had a lot of trouble fitting these tentacles on, so I'd ended up with me having to pin them, which is perfectly fine. It just makes it a sturdier connection point, and it's an interesting look to have these disturbing tentacles coming from the face and not just dangling from the side. And some cables and pipes here and there just to fill it up a little bit and hide a little bit more. And of course you see I put some smokestacks here. And now it's time for the gun. Instead of one giant gun, I'm putting two smaller ones, because that's what I had. And of course not on where the hand should be, but on top of the carapace, because why the hell not? This is a weird thing, so why not? Adding a little bit more of these cable ties here and there, just to have an extra thing looking more mechanical and everything like that. And then we're putting two little guns on top of it. And of course, when I glued them on, they were not perfectly on point. They were not aiming at the same target. But that's sort of fine now, isn't it? Okay, he's ready. He just needs a paint job. That'll come later on. Now let's just take a look at him in the grand reveal. Now I gave the knight a quick undercoat and a zenithal highlight just to tie it all together so it's easier to look at what we're actually looking at. And I must say, I kind of like this look. It's a weird ass look. It's not normal for a knight, but still feels sort of like a knight. Now it's all that's left is just to paint the guy up and do something interesting more to the base, and I think we're pretty much good to go. This is definitely a dark Mechanicum looking, chaos, dark, disgusting, abominable knight. So that's fine and dandy in my book. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me here today. There are links in the description for all kinds of stuff. Social media and various tidbits. You do with it what you will. Like, share and subscribe and hit that little bell thing as well. And let the colors flow. But until next time, farewell.